I had just taken my first sip of coffee that Saturday morning when Melissa, my wife, nearly spat hers across the table. "You're kidding," she said, blinking at the document in my hand. "Your uncle left you a storage facility?" "That's what it says," I muttered, flipping through the thick envelope from the lawyer. "Frank's Storage Solutions. Maple Road, just past Sycamore Heights." Melissa set her mug down, still stunned. "You mean that boxy warehouse with the faded blue roof? The one next to the grocery store?" I nodded slowly. "Apparently it's about 5,000 square feet. 20 units, small office. Chain link fence. Uncle Frank had it for years. I guess no one really knew what he did with it." She laughed, trying to shake off the surprise. "I always thought he was secretly storing doomsday supplies or rare comic books in there," I snorted. "Honestly, wouldn't surprise me." Uncle Frank had been a solitary kind of man. Grumpy, particular, and not exactly warm. But he always showed up to birthdays with a lopsided smile and a gift card, and when my dad died, Frank quietly started dropping off groceries and supplies for us without ever saying a word. "Are you going to sell it?" Melissa asked, stirring her coffee. "I mean, we could finally redo the kitchen." I flipped through the property report. "I don't know, maybe. But it's paid off. There's monthly rental income from a few units. Could be a decent side business." She leaned back, eyes narrowing in that way that said she was already calculating backsplash tile and appliance bundles. "Or you could keep it, rent it out properly, make a steady income. I mean, storage is always in demand, right?" Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Standing at our door was Diane. Reynolds, HOA, president of Sycamore Heights and local tyrant in pearls. Her smile was wide and completely insincere. "David, what a thrilling surprise. I heard about your inheritance. What an opportunity for the neighborhood." "Neighborhood?" I echoed, already uneasy. Diane brushed past me without waiting for an invitation and plopped down at our kitchen table like it was her own. The HOA has struggled for years with our storage situation. That little shed behind the clubhouse? It's falling apart. Rain leaks in. Mice? It's unsanitary." I raised an eyebrow. "Okay." "We've been budgeting for a new solution," she continued, sipping the tea Melissa had reluctantly placed in front of her. "But with inflation, construction costs are absurd right now." I nodded slowly, already hearing the angle coming. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Would you consider allowing the HOA to use a small portion of your facility? Just one unit. Temporarily. It would be such a help." I hesitated. My gut said no. But Melissa shrugged slightly across the table, her face neutral. It did seem like a small ask. 1 unit out of 20. "And temporary. I suppose that's reasonable," I said cautiously. 1 unit, 3 months. "Well, I decide what to do with the property." Diane clapped her hands together with delight. "Perfect. I'll have Tom bring over a short agreement tomorrow. We'll be out of your hair before summer. I promise." 3 days later, I decided to visit the facility and begin clearing out Uncle Frank's old things. I grabbed the keys, plugged in a playlist, and cruised down Maple Road, expecting a quiet afternoon. Then I hit the brakes so hard my seatbelt locked. The driveway was packed. Dozens of cars and trucks spilled across the lot. People bustled about, like ants unloading sofas, boxes, bicycles, crates, and what looked like an entire fishing boat. "What the hell?" I muttered, pulling off to the shoulder and hopping out. As I forced my way through the swarm, I spotted Diane in the center of it all, clipboard in hand, directing traffic like a construction foreman. "Diane!" I shouted over the commotion. "What's going on?" She turned, beaming. "Oh, David, isn't it wonderful? Everyone's so grateful. The Jensen family is moving next month and needed temporary storage, and the Wilsons are renovating their basement. The Gundersons had nowhere to keep their summer vehicles. Hold on, I interrupted, my pulse rising. We agreed to one unit for HOA equipment. Well, yes, technically. But I mentioned the arrangement at our emergency board meeting, and everyone got so excited. We realized this could solve so many problems at once. I stared in horror as Mrs. Patel wheeled a rolling clothes rack into unit. #12. Mr. Gunderson was unloading a motorcycle into unit number 6. Someone had already started hanging Christmas decorations. In another, you can't just, I began. Oh, and great news. Diane chirped, cutting me off. The board voted to amend the bylaws. Now that this is designated as a community resource, all members have equal rights to access it. She handed me a crisp document. Across the top, in bold type, greater than amendment. 47.3, community storage access. I blinked. This isn't legal. I own this. It's not even inside the HOA boundaries. Well, she said sweetly, according to the updated jurisdiction map Tom pulled, the property line falls exactly 8 feet inside our district. That makes it eligible for regulation. I looked around. Every unit was occupied. Handwritten labels were taped to each door. My jaw clenched. You need to stop this, I said firmly. This isn't what I agreed to. Diane stepped closer, lowered her voice, and placed a manicured hand on my arm. David, you don't want to be that guy, do you? The one who takes back a generous offer and upsets the community? That night, while scrolling emails, I saw the Sycamore Heights Community Newsletter land in my inbox. Subject line: Local hero donates storage facility to HOA. I opened it. My stomach dropped. The article named me by name as the homeowner who had graciously donated full storage access to support neighborhood unity. There were photos, quotes, fabricated statements, claims that I had insisted on continuing Uncle Frank's legacy of community service. I felt sick. I pulled over to the side of the road and reread the email twice. This was no longer a misunderstanding. This was a coordinated, calculated takeover. The following week, I returned to the facility determined to reclaim what was mine. Except, now the gate was locked with a brand new chain and combination padlock. I tried the old code. Nothing. Through the fence, I saw even more vehicles parked around the units. A new sign had been hung over the original, greater than Sycamore Heights Community Storage Center. My blood boiled. I climbed the fence and walked straight to the office. It had been converted into a chaotic mess of plastic bins and labeled containers. David, chirped Karen Mitchell, the neighborhood's self-appointed rule enforcer. She was organizing tubs marked fall wreaths and 4th of July banners. Who? Changed the locks? I demanded. She didn't look up. Oh, HOA Security Committee. Someone reported suspicious activity last night. Suspicious? I own this place. Karen finally turned, eyebrows raised. Well, not according to Diane. She said you signed a donation form. Full transfer of rights. It was in the newsletter. My mouth went dry. I never signed anything, I growled. Are you calling Diane a liar? She asked, her voice hard. My hands shook. I didn't know how yet, but I would make them regret ever thinking this place was theirs. The next morning, I woke up with fire in my veins. I couldn't shake what Corinne had said. She said you signed a donation form. Signed? Not possible. But others believed it. That newsletter had already poisoned the well. If Diane had managed to fake an official-looking document with my signature, then I wasn't just being bullied, I was being framed. I needed to see that form for myself. So I drove straight to Mrs. Patel's house. Of all my neighbors, she was kind-hearted and fair. If Diane had shown the form to anyone, it would have been during one of her little persuasion meetings. Sure enough, Mrs. Patel greeted me with a warm but conflicted smile. "David," she said cautiously, "I heard you've been upset." "I need to see the paperwork Diane showed you," I said, skipping pleasantries. "Did she say I donated the facility?" Mrs. Patel hesitated, then stepped back and waved me in. She brought it to the clubhouse. She said it was an official agreement. It had the HOA logo. There was language about property being allocated for community use. I swallowed hard. "Was there a signature?" She nodded. "Your name, your signature." Right below a paragraph about continuing your uncle's legacy of service. I nearly laughed. Uncle Frank once chased trick-or-treaters off his property with a garden hose. His idea of service was yelling at the HOA to fix potholes. Mrs. Patel pulled up a photo on her phone. I zoomed in. The signature was close, but not mine. Someone had copied it poorly, likely from an old HOA fee check. It lacked pressure. The D was wrong. The tail of the yard didn't loop the way I always wrote it. It was a forgery, and I suddenly knew just how far Deanne had gone. That evening, I marched to Diane's pristine white colonial, fists clenched, breath tight. I didn't care if she was hosting dinner. I was done being polite. Her husband Tom answered the door, wiping grass clippings from his jeans. He looked surprised to see me. "We need to talk," I said without preamble. "About what?" "About the fraudulent document with my forged signature." Tom's jaw tightened. "That's a serious accusation." "And a true one," I said. "Now get Deanne." He folded his arms. "She's at a board meeting. I'll go there myself." As I turned to leave, Tom's voice followed me. "Careful, David. Throwing around words like fraud and forgery. Well, that kind of thing can backfire." I stopped. "Is that a threat?" "No," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just neighborly advice." The HOA clubhouse was buzzing with post-meeting chatter when I arrived. Board members drifted out in clusters, offering tight smiles and side glances. Then, I saw Raj Patel, one of the lesser-known board members. A quiet man, always helpful, never confrontational. He met my eyes and stepped closer. "Everything okay?" "Not even close," I replied. "They're saying I donated my storage facility. Diane forged my name." Raj's face didn't change, but his voice dropped. "You wouldn't be the first." That stopped me cold. He glanced around and lowered his voice. "The Smiths? They used to own the RV pad on Coral Drive. The HOA claimed it violated code, but they had county approval. Still lost it." "How?" Raj sighed. "Diane discovered an old agreement. Smith said it was fake. Never went to court. Too expensive. They moved." I stared at him. "How is she getting away with this?" "People don't want to fight," Raj said. "It's messy, expensive. Deanne counts on that. And those who push back," he winced, "they face consequences." The next morning, I took a personal day from work and went to the county recorder's office. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. I pulled up zoning maps, parcel boundaries, plat overlays, everything. After hours of scouring records and paying for certified copies, I had my answer. The storage facility was entirely outside HOA jurisdiction. Not partially. Entirely? 8 feet? A lie. My lot was completely exempt from HOA governance. I didn't stop there. I had the donation form scanned by a handwriting analyst. He confirmed the signature had likely been copied. Traced. I then checked the date on the bylaw amendment Diane referenced. It had been filed after her conversation with me, meaning they rewrote rules to justify a decision that had already been acted upon illegally. I felt rage like I'd never known before. But under it, calm settled in. I had evidence. and I was going to bury them with a dot according to HOA bylaws. If 10 or more residents co-signed, a special hearing could be called even against the board's wishes. So I went door to door. I showed Mrs. Patel the proof. I showed the Jensens. I showed the Gundersons. Even Karen, though she tried to deny it, looked shaken when I handed her the boundary map. I gathered 19 signatures in one evening. The board had no choice. The special meeting was scheduled for Friday night. The clubhouse was packed. Tension clung to the air like humidity before a thunderstorm. I took the floor, breathing slowly. Greater than this facility, I began, holding up a map, is not within HOA jurisdiction. This document, I continued, raising the forged form, contains my signature, but I never signed it. A handwriting expert agrees. And this, I added, waving the printed HOA bylaw update, was filed after the facility was already illegally accessed and repurposed. Without my consent, without compensation, without legality. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Diane stood at the back, arms crossed, tight-lipped. I looked out across the room. Ask yourselves, I said, voice strong, what kind of community do we have if anyone's property can be taken with a forged form and a vote behind closed doors? Raj stood up. I moved for an immediate vote of no confidence in Diane Reynolds as HOA president. The room erupted in noise. And then, in vote, Diane was ousted. Tom resigned. Karen vanished. And me? I wasn't done yet. The morning after Diane's removal, I met with attorney Lisa Chun, a property and civil litigation expert. I spread everything across her conference table: forged documents, the backdated bylaw, county boundary maps, photos of altered signage, and the newsletter article that painted me as a voluntary donor. She scanned the materials, her eyes narrowing with every page. David, she finally said, this isn't just a property dispute. This is document forgery, defamation, and theft of use. You have a real case here, a strong one. Good, I said, jaw set, because I want them exposed, legally, publicly. We filed a civil suit against Diane Reynolds for forgery, defamation, and unauthorized use of private property, the Sycamore Heights HOA Board for negligence, misappropriation of funds, and participating in fraudulent decisions, Karen Mitchell for unlawful entry and aiding in changing locks without owner consent. Lisa also contacted the district attorney's office to report the forgery. The moment we proved Diane submitted a signed form without my actual signature, she crossed the threshold from shady politics into criminal territory. And the best part? I had video footage from a nearby business's security camera showing Diane and Tom hanging the community storage, signed days before the forged document was even introduced. The lawsuit sent tremors through Sycamore Heights. The new interim HOA president, a mild-mannered retired librarian named Edna Clooney, reached out with her hands up. We want to resolve this peacefully, she said on a Zoom call. What would it take to settle? I didn't smile. Full ownership restored, public retraction in the newsletter, apology, reimbursement for repairs, and all legal fees paid by the HOA. Edna blinked. You're serious, I leaned in. You're lucky I'm not asking for punitive damages. They caved. The next week, every homeowner in Sycamore Heights received a printed newsletter. Correction. Misrepresentation of community donation. We regret to inform our residents that the previously announced donation of the Maple Road storage facility was based on an unauthorized and forged document. The property belongs solely to Mr. David Renshaw, who did not consent to community use. We apologize for any confusion or inconvenience caused. And in bold at the bottom, greater than. HOA funds will nitrogen monoxide longer be used to access or improve private property without written Notarized consent. By the end of the month, I received a check from the HOA's insurer for $92,400. $30,000 of that went straight into renovating the facility. The rest? I let Melissa decide. We finally got that kitchen. And then some, but I wasn't done with Diane Reynolds. The DA took the forgery seriously. Handwriting analysis, the timeline of documents, and multiple statements from witnesses like Mrs. Patel and Raj sealed it. Diane was formally charged with forgery, filing false documents with intent to deceive, abuse of authority under a nonprofit charter. Tom tried to play innocent, but security footage showed him placing unauthorized locks and directing contractors onto my property. He was fined and banned from holding any HOA office again. Diane's trial didn't last long. She took a plea deal, 18 months probation, a fine, and community service, ironically enough, organizing legitimate storage for a local nonprofit. Rumor has it she's now living in her sister's basement. The once untouchable HOA queen, stripped of power, title, and reputation. I stood in front of the newly repainted gates beneath a sleek aluminum sign that read, "Greater than Frank's Secure Storage, Est, 2025. Family owned, locally trusted. 20 fresh painted units. Digital keypad access. LED lighting, security cameras. And most importantly, no one but me has the keys." Within 3 weeks of relaunching, I had 18 out of 20 units rented. All legally, all at fair monthly rates. I even gave Mrs. Patel a discounted unit for being honest during the investigation. One afternoon, as I was organizing paperwork in the new office, a young man walked in. "I heard this place used to be community storage," he said. I smiled. "Used to be," he nodded. "It looks better now." "Thanks," I said. "It's not just a storage business anymore. It's a reminder that you don't let people steal what you've earned just because they wear a blazer and quote bylaws." These days, I still drive through Sycamore Heights. Melissa and I take walks through the neighborhood with our dog. We wave to most neighbors. A few avoid eye contact, but I can live with that. Diane's house sits quiet. The flowers are dead. The lawn overgrown. No more HOA meetings at her kitchen table. No more neighborhood schemes. Karen Mitchell left town. Raj Patel was elected as the new board president, and he's turned the HOA into a fair, transparent organization. I don't attend meetings, but I keep the invites. Just in case, one evening, as Melissa and I stood in the new kitchen sipping wine, she said, "I still can't believe all that came from one beat-up warehouse." I smiled, raising my glass. "To Uncle Frank," I said. "To standing your ground," she replied. And I meant it, because what they tried to steal wasn't just a building. It was ownership. Dignity. Legacy. But they forgot one thing: I don't lose. Not when it comes to family. Not when it comes to what's min.